Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to my podcast. My name is Lynette. Today we're going to talk about voting, and this isn't going to be a political podcast because I'm not a political person, but I want to talk to you about the stress, the emotions that the last, 7, 8 years have caused us. Certainly I have felt it. I would imagine most of you have felt it as well. And the things that we might think about that will help guide us in our decision who's going to lead this country. I'm not here to try to sway you one way or the other because, to be perfectly honest, I don't really know either. But here are some things to think about. We're going to start with our children. When we have a mentor for our children, do we want a mentor to teach them to be kind to other people or to make fun of other people? Do we want them to fight with each other, whether they're siblings or on the playground, or do we want them to get along? Children do model themselves after their mentors or their parents. And we need to open our eyes and see what's going on in this country as if we're looking through a child's eyes, because these children are our future leaders. And if we teach them not to be compassionate, to make fun of less fortunate, to not tell the truth when they're in trouble, to not get along, to fight amongst themselves, all of that is giving them the wrong idea about what is acceptable. I personally want to live in peace, and I hope this country can get along. I've never seen so much division as over the last 7, 8 years. It's really interesting, and I don't care what side of the spectrum they're on, whether it's left or right. They both have tried to convert me their way, and like they've always said, one thing that is personal and private is religion and politics. So be honest with you, I kind of resent when people do that. I've got so many direct messages, so much propaganda, and honestly, it's insulting because don't they think I have the brains to listen to the news and make my own decision? But even more than that, it's kind of in your gut. It's your gut feeling. When you're talking to someone, can't you kind of tell when they're not being truthful? And I know in politics, asking for the truth 100% is asking for too much. But for the most part, it's almost like when, and this goes mostly for females, when you're dating someone and they promise you this, promise you that, and you're holding on tight to their promise. But what really matters is when that promise is fulfilled. So you need to look at that as well. But not only did people try to sway me one way or the other, but when I would not show interest in what they were saying, they would automatically assume I was for the other person. And so then I got flack for that as well. But it was really interesting when there is a particular side, and I have noticed this, and I'm not saying what side it is, but some people who are on this side almost seemed brainwashed because I have a really good friend. She's 100% honest, sweet, just the best person that walks on the earth. However, when it came to talking about politics and the side that she's on, it's almost this glaze came over her, this glass. And she was like, I hate to say obsessed, but like an obsessed person. It was almost how an individual in a cult would conduct themselves. And I noticed this particular group, not everybody who is on this side acts that way, but I've seen it more than once. Another thing in making our choice, and we have seen on the news, so many countries have so much going on. It's so sad. But do you think any of those people that are experiencing these war-torn countries are saying, gee, the stock market did better yesterday? No, it goes beyond the stock market. Don't you think they would rather have peace than have the stock market go up? That is definitely something to think about. And I'm sharing all these ideas with you because if you have felt like I felt, like I said, I'm not a political person and I'm not trying to sway anyone one way or the other. But it has caused a lot of stress and it's caused a little bit of friction in relationships. And that shouldn't be happening. First and foremost, like I said earlier, our choice is personal and private. And I've never seen so much division. For us to get along as a country, we have to get along in relationships. We have to get along in families. So what I'm saying is when you make your decision, make it based on not only what you see today, our finances. I know that is a hard one, but investments, not only investments, but invest in yourself, invest in your children, invest in the future. Because the truth is what the stock market does, or even a sack of money, isn't going to do a lot of good if the country is falling apart. The last 7 or 8 years, there's been a lot of confusion. In fact, I had a friend who's on the opposite side of the friend I just talked about. And she would go on and on and on until I finally had to say, do not talk to me about politics anymore. It just got to be too much. It would weigh so heavy on me. And again, doesn't she think that I have my own opinions, that I can see things for what they are to an extent? We never really know until all is said and done, but to an extent. I think if you go with your gut feelings and if you have any sense as to if people are there for your best interest or for their best interest, all these things need to be weighed out. But the reason I'm making this podcast is because I have been under tremendous stress just from trying to fight off people from the left, people from the right, just trying to be myself, be what I observe, making my own decisions. And it's nobody's business what I want to do. I'm tired of getting direct messages. I'm tired of all of this political stuff because it has weighed heavy on me. And if I have stress, I'm sure I'm not the only one in this country that feels it. And that's why I felt it necessary to make this podcast. So basically, to sum it up, is make your own decisions, not just based on what you see today, what the stock market is doing today, but look at your children and think about what they're saying. Would you want this person to mentor your children? You want your children to get the morals that that person has. These are all things that you really need to look at and really need to consider because, truthfully, it is going to make a difference. I remember when I was young and in grammar school, the president, it was a huge thing. I mean, we would learn so much and we idolized the president. And so with that being said, I really urge you to go with your gut, to look at more than what's happening today, to not listen to others, and to strive for peace, because the only way we're going to live in happiness as a country to have peace. I've never seen such division in my life as I've seen recently. And it starts actually with my personal friends. For some reason, they feel it necessary to try to sway me their way or to give me their input. And like I said, it's somewhat insulting. Like I can't make my own decisions, but I not only go with what I see, what I hear, but I go with my gut feeling. And I think we all have that instinct. So I'm going to close with saying this. I felt this podcast was necessary. However, my biggest wish is for everyone to have peace and be considerate and compassionate of each other, and really look at all those things when you make your decision. With that being said, God bless you. I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.